point. Every man's got a time when he comes in his life where he has to make a real decision. Every man's got a time in his life when he takes eternity and death, hell, and the grave, life and limb and money and fame and fortune and people and breath and everything there is that means anything to you. Every man's got a time where he comes to a breaking point. What is a breaking point? A breaking point is a changing time, a change in your life, a point of a line of demarcation where you either choose God or you choose to go away from God. Jeremiah said to the Lord, ever since I started preaching your word, he said, they've been mocking me, they've been making fun of me, they're calling my name out and they laugh about me, they get together and they make a fun of me, they're talking about me like a dog. God and Jeremiah said to God, ever since I started preaching what you told me to preach, he said, it's been downhill, to paraphrase him. And then it was downhill, for they took Jeremiah and they took old cords and rotten rags and they tied him under his armpits and they lowered him down into a pit. And one of the most instructive things in all the Bible, it says, and he sank in the mire. Can you imagine God's prophet? Can you imagine the weeping prophet? Can you imagine the one who walked through the streets of Jerusalem and cried and said, oh God, that my eyes could have more tears, that I could cry for thy people? Can you imagine how he felt when he sank in the mire? Where is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? What happened to you? The one that dwells between the cherubim, that almighty eternal being. Where is he, preacher? Where he's always been, dear friend. You think he didn't know that was going to happen to Jeremiah? What about John the Baptist when they put him in a prison? And there in that prison while he languished behind the bars in that dark dungeon. And they came to John one day and said, how you doing, John? And John said, don't worry about me. You go back to the one that I preached about and you ask him if he's the one that should come or should we look for another. He had come to a breaking point. Jeremiah came to a breaking point. You'll come to a breaking point. You'll come to a point of decision where your life will make a choice. You'll go on with God or you'll go against God. You'll go on with him or you'll turn your back on him. Thanks be unto God, when they lowered Joseph down into the grave, they put him down in that hole, into that tomb. Joseph had a spirit come upon him that stayed with him for the rest of his life. Unlike Jeremiah, Joseph said, you meant it to be evil. God meant it to be good. He could look beyond his circumstances. He could look beyond that hole. He could look beyond what was happening here and now, and he saw a greater purpose. And that's where God lifts you up. That's where God gives you life. It's when you're able to see as God sees. See with God's wisdom and not with the wisdom of men. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what tomorrow brings. I have no idea what the next day is going to be, but I know my God lives. I know he lives. He'll always live. I live because he lives. There is no life outside him. Bless his holy right.